I just got off the phone with a gentleman, super nice guy in his 60s, lives in a $3 million home in California, has a couple million in investments, has a few drinks, doesn't go overboard, just has one more than he should have, not slurring, not staggering, gets into his car, crashes, and someone in the other car dies. He was just like 0.5% over the legal limit. Now, he lives in the community property state of California, so everything he has and everything his wife has, poof, gone, frozen, seized in a lawsuit. Wasn't his wife's fault, not her fault that she now has to be homeless in her 60s after the two of them worked their tails off for years in order to have a secure retirement. Yeah, it happens that fast. The causes of lawsuits happen in an instant. Most people spend more time planning a family vacation than protecting their wealth from a lawsuit. So it's a topic that doesn't enter most people's minds until it happens. In fact, as someone who's been in the asset protection from lawsuits business for over 30 years, I believe 70,000 clients in our database, the largest asset protection company in the country, I see it. Most people who need asset protection come running to us with their hair on fire. Hi, I'm the business guy. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please click the like button below so YouTube promotes this video. Thank you so much. And you can also click the subscribe button so that when more videos come out like this, you'll get notified. So let's take a look at some of the asset protection planning facts and lawsuit statistics. Knowing the benefits of asset protection, gathering information about planning your strategy, and then taking action to secure your wealth before you lose everything that you own. Here's some lawsuit statistics. 78% of lawsuit defendants never thought it would happen to them. It happens in an instant, like the story we just told. The U.S. has 80% of the world's lawyers. 96% of the world's lawsuits are filed in the U.S. A new lawsuit is filed every 30 seconds on average. The self-employed and small business owners have a 33% chance of becoming a defendant in a lawsuit. There are over 100,000 students in law school today, and the median damage awards are about $201,000. Now, the FBI reports that 250,000 criminals make their living through lawsuits. You know, like the people who slam on their brakes in front of you on the highway and try to get you to rear end them. Pretty hard to catch. Pretty hard to prove that that was done on purpose. Finally, asset protection is not just for the wealthy. Recent studies showed that the average income bracket for targeted lawsuits is under $200,000 a year. So why plan ahead? By establishing an asset protection plan before you need it, before it's necessary, you're preserving your wealth and everything you work so hard for. So things such as asset protection trusts, limited liability companies, land trusts for privacy of ownership, and so on. In fact, you can call us. We have attorneys on staff who you can speak to right now if it's during business hours, or fill out a free consultation form online at assetprotectionplanners.com and then get some information for your specific situation. We can put together a plan that could be right for you. Okay, so first, something happens that leaves you vulnerable. Then, somebody hits you with a lawsuit and jeopardizes your financial well-being. Any transfer of assets at that point is subject to scrutiny under the fraudulent transfer law. So when somebody sues you and you give your assets to family members, courts quickly interpret it as an attempt to defraud creditors. And as such, the creditor can now sue your family member. So using asset protection trust instead of trying to give money to mama is really the way to go, and we can help you with that if you give us a call. If you transfer assets or property knowing somebody will likely sue you, you transfer it to another person, you'll undoubtedly be faced with defending that asset transfer. And as such, the transfer could be disregarded by a court or reversed, and it may come with additional fines or penalties. Now, asset protection is much more difficult after you need it. However, it is possible to protect yourself after a lawsuit, for example, with the asset protection trust that we form. It's just subject to more scrutiny. Where liability comes from? Liability can come from many situations that seem harmless. For example, one's own home, automobile, workplace, employee, spouse, real estate investments, having a swimming pool, even minor children. So liability is all around us almost any time. So looking at the statistics over a one-year period, the two most frequent kinds of lawsuits arose from automobile accidents, 60%, and liability occurring on someone's premises from people who claim they were injured due to improperly maintained or dangerous property, 17%. Now, the key thing to know is, in many of these cases, the people were sued for way more than their insurance covers. In 92% of tort cases, the plaintiff cited personal injury as the type of harm involved. Property damage was cited in 5%, and financial loss or injury to reputation was claimed in the remaining 3%. The majority of tort cases involving personal injury, 64%, or property damage, 60%, were automobile torts. In some cases, an individual cannot limit their liability outside of separating their personal and business assets. So this is where planning ahead for personal asset protection really pays off. Unprotected liability exposure. Many business owners use corporations or LLCs to defend against business liability. In other types of ownership, such as sole proprietorships or partnerships, there's no protection at all. So consider that liability often strikes from the least expected places. So that is why it is important to know where you are vulnerable and then take steps to protect your assets. Here are some examples of where you may be exposed. Parents are 100% liable for the actions of their minor children. Sometimes adult children still living at home as dependents can also create risks. There have been cases where children have had an underage party with alcohol at a family home. In fact, one case just popped into my mind as I'm sitting here. I had a friend and his brother had an underage drinking party. One of the kids went downstairs and grabbed a rifle out of the stepfather's cabinet and shot into the ceiling above. Killed one of the kids upstairs. So those are the kind of things that happen that we don't expect. It happens in an instant. Others, for example, are where an auto accident resulted in a devastating lawsuit. I know one family in Vancouver, Washington, whose 15-year-old son just set off some fireworks. It started a fire that burned 48,000 acres. The parents are now ordered to pay $36 million in damages. A 10-year-old boy from just north of Los Angeles, where I lived for 20 years, admitted to setting a fire that charred more than 38,000 acres and destroyed 21 homes in northern LA County, leaving the devastated parents on the hook. So in addition, investment properties and owning real estate is an open door to liability. Personal injuries, accidents, and other incidents result in tenants and their guests suing the property owners. In fact, another story just came to mind as I'm sitting here. I owned an investment property in the state of Washington. The parents slid the couch next to the window. One of the 3-year-old children got up on the couch and fell out the second-story window. Now, marriage often doubles one's liability by introducing the responsibility of a spouse's debts. In action in many states, liability from one partner in a marriage can expose the assets of the other spouse. This is especially the case in community property states, and it's slightly less so in states that offer tenancy by the entireties. But in those states, if both of the spouses get sued, such as a car wreck, where they both own the car, or one owns the car and the other one's driving, they can both lose all of their assets. Having employees, business vehicles, or a workplace can jeopardize the personal assets of the business owner. Now, some states have homestead protection, but most states don't protect the full value of the home. So know the homestead exemptions in your state. Now, some states protect IRAs from judgments, but some, such as California, not fully. So if the judge thinks that you can support yourself in other way in retirement, a judgment creditor can seize the IRA. Some states protect all IRAs, and some let creditors take Roth IRAs. Knowing the IRA creditor protection in your state may give you some ideas about how much you can secure with this type of retirement plan. In conclusion, asset protection planning is the analysis of each individual's risk and placing a barrier around the assets to that risk using appropriate legal tools. If asset protection is needed, it comes in many forms. Asset protection trusts, LLCs, U.S. and offshore structures that we establish for clients every day of the week. So there are ways to shield assets from all the dangers out there, whether it's from being a parent or being an anesthesiologist. So give us a call. Please click like, subscribe, and share this video with others. Many thanks. This is The Business Guy.